Hello, KINES 55 students and fellow coaches. Welcome to week 8. We're nearing we only have a few weeks left, and we're now going to start getting into the nuts and bolts of actually teaching and the skill of coaching and teaching and how you organize that. But before we get into that today, I thought we would recap just a little bit about last week's assignment and let you guys know how much I enjoyed reading about the different programs that you guys chose. And I learned, every year when I teach this class and I do assignments like this, my knowledge of the different sports increases, and I'm always excited to learn new things. And so I appreciate you guys getting your assignments in, and I've appreciated reading them and seeing the thoughtfulness that has gone into them. So when you have players that want to be coached, it really makes you want to give them even more and coach them up the best you can. It's inspiring. And when you teach a class, it's no different. When you have students that are into the class and it's obvious with their assignments, it really is inspiring to want to teach that class. So thank you for getting your assignments in and for the quality of your assignments. Much appreciated. And, if you do become a coach someday, again, my goal is that you would have some useful information that you could draw from that would help you, or at least guide you into a coaching career. So nice job. Well done. If you have not turned any assignments in, I will accept late work. Just get it to me. And the goal for all of you guys should be that everybody wants to get an A in this class. And so you all know that is totally doable and achievable by all of you still at this point. So if you're falling behind on some assignments, don't panic, just get them in. And you can look through your emails. I try to get everything on Canvas. I try to get everything through the school email in your student portal. And I also email you guys directly to your email address. So hopefully that's working out for you. Okay, so this week, week 8, we're going to be talking with the actual teaching and the actual skills that go into your team and your scheme or your system or your offense or defense or special teams. There's so many strategies within strategies in sports, and sometimes we overlook as coaches. We overlook a lot of the steps that help create those situations, those scenarios, those styles of play. Just a real simple example would be if you want your team to be, a really fast break, fast style team up and down the field, up and down the court, pressure, 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 pressure. That requires tremendous endurance and cardiovascular level, and you have to be in really good shape to do that. And so sometimes coaches assume they want to run a certain thing, and they forget that to be able to do that the right way, you got to start with the basics. How long can your athletes go at that pace? And so that's just a simple example, but this week's assignment is to think about the system that you chose. Okay, some of you chose fast-paced styles, some of you chose defensive styles or tactics, but these assignments hopefully will be linked together. So you have this strategy, this style, this system that you're trying to emulate with your team, and this week, what I want you to do is take that style or that offense or that defense that you're trying to, make your team like. And again, this should be your bread and butter stuff. Like if you're going to start teaching something to a team, what's the first offense you teach them? What's the first defense you teach them? What is your foundation? That's what I'm hoping you start with this assignment, because I think starting from the beginning is always the best when you're dealing with and making sure that we check every box along the way. So the first thing I would say is we get into teaching your style or your offense or defense. I think it's really, really, really important to take some time to consider who your audience is. and what their knowledge level is. Sometimes, I've made the mistake coaching college football where you make assumptions that people know things already when you come in, and you could spend a week talking about a certain skill or something, assuming that everybody knows exactly what you're talking about, and you find out later on that a lot of people were really confused and didn't even know what you were talking about exactly. So we go by the motto at Santa Rosa now that assume every guy knows nothing, zero about football when they show up. And I think that's a good way to do it because when you have varying levels of football IQ, football experience, football knowledge, football ability, to try to get everybody at the same page with all those things, really, I think requires you to go back to the beginning. And if it's just reinforcement and reiteration to some guys, that's going to help them. And if it's the first time some guys have heard it, then obviously that's going to help them. But it's important to know your audience and also understand that um, everybody, not everybody, but there are learning styles, and there's multiple learning styles. Some people are able to do something just by being told how to do it. Some people need to be shown how to do it. Some people need to read how to do it. Some people need to watch other people do it or do it themselves to learn how to do it. And I think as a coach, it's really, really important that you understand that and that you exhaust every one of those modalities of teaching. For example, with our football players, we'll have a position meeting. We'll explain the drills and the techniques and the strategies that we're going to try to install that day. Then we're going to put some video on and we're going to show them the drills, techniques, and strategies that we want to teach that day, and show them good examples and bad examples and common mistakes. And many times we'll have them write that down in their playbook, and then we'll have them read it. They have to study their playbook, and then we go out on the practice field and we do those things, and then we have a game. And so if you're doing it that way, I feel like you're checking every learning style so nobody falls through the cracks, because at the end of the day, if one of your players doesn't understand a key block or a key step on a certain play, that could be the difference of winning or losing the game. And it could be the difference of that player having success or not having success. So number one is understanding your audience. So some preseason quizzes, questionnaires, things like that, I think those are really valuable. You can find out about your team, find out about what their knowledge level is, their skill level, all that kind of stuff, before you even get them out there on the field. And that might give you a head start on some of the first things you teach. If you are going to be a certain type of team and everybody in their questionnaire at the beginning says they don't have experience at one part of that, then that may motivate you to want to spend more time with that part of that skill when you teach it, and maybe spend more time and more drills on that. So understand your audience is number one. So now we say, okay, we're going to check every box. We're going to understand our audience. We're going to hit every teaching modality possible. But what's the information? What are the drills? What are the skills and drills, as we say? And so when you look at your system or scheme, what I want you to do this week is take that system, and I want you to write just a laundry list of skills that are required for you to successfully execute that offense, that defense, that system, whatever that is. And so an example is, let's say you're a basketball coach and you want your team to be really good at a pick and roll. Okay. Well, there's lots of skills involved in a pick and roll. There's the players must understand and be able to execute a proper pick. They must be able to execute a pass. They must be able to execute a shot. There's body positioning. There's reactions to what the other team might potentially do. I think that's always an important part of when you teach something in sports. The most common response to what you're teaching should be part of that. Like, what are they going to, so you're going to go up there and set this pick. He's probably going to, or she's probably going to do this. And so then you're going to do this. And so you cover all your bases that way. But a pick and roll, you break it down into 4 or 5 skills that you need to learn, or your players need to be able to learn, not assuming that they already know any of those. Okay. Or even if they think they do, it's always good for you to confirm that by having them do that. So you identify the skills, then you're going to create some drills that are going to teach those skills or reinforce those skills. And so, an example of that would be our football team. We want to be have a little more emphasis as a more run heavy offense, which means we run the ball more than we pass the ball. The 3 skills that I think are important to achieve the goal of being a run heavy offense are run blocking, handing the ball off, and carrying the ball, securing the ball as the running back. Now, if I were to go through skills, starting with just the run blocking skill, okay, I would say, okay, we start with the feet. We're going to have a wide base. We're going to take short, choppy steps to ensure maximum stability. Hips, we're going to explode hips through on contact and continue to chop our feet. We go to hands. So our hands, we want to punch with our hands and with our thumbs up and hit the chest plate of the defender that we're trying to block. Our eyes are going to be there's going to be a target with every block. Sometimes that might be the middle of the chest, sometimes that might be to the side or a shoulder to gain positioning. But that's something you emphasize in every drill. And then the finish of a run block. We're going to extend our arms. We're going to continue to chop our feet, and we're going to continue to move the defender out of the way so that we could run in that area. So that would just be one example of one skill. And I want you guys to do 3 skills that go into your overall system. Okay. And so I want some skills and then drills for those three items that you pick. And this will all be in written format to you guys also. But what I want you to learn today, and now that I've explained the assignment, I want to talk a little bit about this. What we're getting into right now is planning. And when you're planning something, you know, you're planning a journey here where your athletes are going to have to learn your system. They're going to go through a season. And it's really important to look at, you know, lots of different things, but one of the things that I think is important to look at is what's your end game, what's the end goal, and that's kind of important to know. And it's also important to know where your starting point is. Okay, so if you know where your starting point is and you know where you want to go, then you can make a plan. But what a lot of people fail to do is one or the other. We'll say, here's our end goal. We're going to want to win a conference championship. But they don't realize how far away they are from that at that moment. And sometimes that it's more important even to know where you are, where your starting point is. That's going to help you define what that end goal is. And so they go hand in hand, but I think those are important. And now you look at it just from a straight logistics viewpoint. So with football, we have so many skills that need to be taught. You know, you have 22 different positions, really about 30 different positions when you really break it all down with the special teams and specialty type players. With each one of those positions, there are specific techniques that are specific to that position. There are specific things that you do and drills. And that's why you'll see so many different football coaches on a college or NFL staff. We have 16 coaches on our staff right now. And so we're constantly breaking apart the big group of the football team into these small little pieces and working on little pieces like musicians that are all going to get together at the end of the day and form a symphony. But there's a very logical approach you can take to this. And in football, we call this at the beginning of the season, we start out with a what's called an implementation sheet. And that is one thing that I have our offensive and defensive coordinators do. And it's really just like this assignment. It's okay, identify what our strengths are and what we want to be great at. Okay, now write up how you're going to install all that. Okay, so on Monday, what are you going to be doing? Okay, you're going to be working on these skills and these strategies. Those same skills that you're working on should work towards and hand in hand with the strategies that you're working on. Okay, so you've got skills, you've got strategies, but you can't cram them all into one day. And so I think it's important when you're doing this is to start with, again, your base, your foundation. And then once, I'm a firm believer in, don't keep going with more stuff until the original stuff is understood and they're able to execute that. Okay, but creating a schedule, an implementation sheet is crucial to football coaches and I think all coaches, because it keeps you, it gives you something to look back at and say, okay, man, we're getting ready for our first game. And as I look at our practice plans, I realize we have not done any corner kicks other than this, or we have not done enough inbound passes or enough inbound plays leading up to our first game, or man, we haven't covered like what to do at the end of the game when there's time's running out. And so first listing all those things that you need to have in a big laundry list, you start with that. And then you look at the days or practice opportunities that you have and you say, holy cow, we've got 100 things to teach and we've got 15 practices before our first game. Well, that's when your list might start to get smaller of strategies. And I'm a firm believer in keep it simple. You don't need a lot of strategies. You need a lot of buy-in, and you need to have players that are coached up. Sorry about that. That's my phone ringing. So as you're teaching these things and as you're scheduling them, that will help you narrow it down. Okay. And then you might find out that there's just not enough time to do everything that you want to do as a coach. Okay. Or you find out that there is enough time. Okay. But coaching is a slow process. And when you have a new team and you have new players, which you're probably going to have every year, you have to, there's terminology, there's so much to install. I think that, less is more for sure. So the logistical approach to this, we have dates, we have practice days, we have practice opportunities, we have this 150 number of skills we're going to teach, let alone all the strategies that those skills make up. So you say, okay, I want to do this on offense, and it's going to take all these skills to learn this strategy. Well, you need to schedule all that. And one thing that I think a lot of coaches do is they miss things that are vital to that strategy or that, and when the strategy doesn't work, they blame it on the players. And one of the things I really try hard to do is every time we fail miserably at something, which sometimes happens, the first thing I do is go, did we cover that? How much practice time did we spend covering that scenario? How much practice time did we spend covering that technique that was so crucial to us on Saturday? And a lot of times I find out like, man, I blew it. I should have had more time dedicated to that. I didn't know it was going to be that important of a factor in this game. And sometimes you don't do that and you kick yourself in the butt afterwards. But, having everything scheduled, having it dialed in, having it narrowed down, being able to say on Tuesday, we need to have done these other things by Tuesday, because on Tuesday we're scheduled to put in our short yardage offense. And we can't do our short yardage offense if we haven't already taught the run blocking and all those other things. So an implementation sheet is huge. And that is like an overall big picture thing. Like on Monday, we need to be able to learn these 3 things. On Tuesday, it's this. On Wednesday, it's this. On Thursday, it's this. On Friday, it's this. And then within the implementation sheet, the next step is your practice plans. And I would say no matter what sport you coach, have a plan, have a purpose with every day. Okay. And when you have your practice plan, I think it's important to share the practice plan with your team beforehand. Say, okay, team, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to start out with our everyday drills. Then we're going to go into some 7-on-7, 1-on-1 stuff. And then after that, we're going to do some special teams. We're going to have a live period at this point right here. We need you guys to really be up and going 100% in that period. That's a full speed period. And then we're going to finish with conditioning. And then after that, we're going to go lift weights. Okay. The goal of this practice today is to get more familiar with our opponent. It's a Tuesday practice or a Wednesday practice. Get more familiar with our game plan through scenarios in practice and through simulating our opponent. And so let's get after it. Let's have a good day. Let's have a good practice. Boom, you move on. I think it's important for your players to know that you have a plan, okay, and that you stick to the plan. Having a plan also gives you a sense of urgency with your teaching, which I think is helpful. In a game, you don't get a lot of time to spend with your athletes to make adjustments. And, if you say, okay, guys, look, we have a period right now where we're going to work on inside run plays and we got 10 minutes. We're going to run 10 plays and that's all we got. After that, we got to move on to the next thing. And having a little bit of a sense of urgency sometimes is helpful to set the tone a little bit for that drill and get the kind of intensity level that you're looking for. So you've got all these things now, okay, and you're working on practice plans and things like that. And so I'm going to share my screen here with you now and give you an example of something that we use. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. This is an Excel sheet that we use to keep our practice plans on. But I've got a practice plan for every day of the year in football season, which sometimes is like, it's a lot. But every day to make sure that we have a purpose and that we have a plan and that we're working on things that are going to feed into our system, our offense, our defense. What you don't want to do is find out when you look at your practice plan that you're doing drills that aren't doing anything to enhance the things that are most important to you. And sometimes when you have assistant coaches or you're a first time assistant coach, you might be doing drills and then you say, well, why do you do that drill? And you realize like, oh, I guess, this drill, it might be a good drill, but it's not really enhancing or reinforcing anything that is important to us. I think it's crucially, vitally important to make sure that every one of your drills feeds into your overall system or scheme. Okay. And the more game like you can make those drills, the better. And so that there's something that they can, grab onto when they're learning that. But if you look at this practice plan, this is a Tuesday practice. And on there, you'll see that there's time increments broken down by 5-minute increments. At the top here, you can see all the different positions. So this is a defensive practice plan. You can see the defensive line, the linebackers, the outside linebackers, the safeties, and the corners. And any one of those 5 different position groups could be doing something totally different at any time as you look at this practice plan. Okay, you can see the times when we're going to be getting together with our offense, with a scout team, and then you see these big areas down here at the bottom of the practice. That's where our whole team is doing stuff together. Okay, so if you look at this, this supports the idea that is in your assignment this week. Is it's work from the small parts to the big parts. Okay, you start with small groups of people. You start with those individual musicians learning their part, and then you put the symphony together at the end. And that's a common teaching style, and that's especially in football. You're going to see a lot of your more team or 11-on-11 type things towards the end of practice because they've broken down the skills and the drills of those of those strategies earlier in the practice to be ready for that. And then to be even more organized, one of the things that we do, or that I think is good to do, is to script all the plays you're going to run that practice. Okay, so for me, let's say I'm coaching defense here and we're getting ready for Sierra College this week. and I'm looking at, okay, it's a Tuesday practice. Tuesday is the day that we introduce our opponent to our players for the most part. And it's kind of what we call a first down day. What do they like to do the best? And let's get familiar with that on that day. And so what I'm going to do is all kinds of film work and study of our opponent. And I'm going to come down with what I think are those plays that they think they're the best at, that are their bread and butter plays that they're going to probably run on first down. And we're going to just script every one of those plays. And maybe it's just 4 plays that they really run a lot on first down that are their kind of bread and butter plays. Well, I'm going to run those 4 plays over and over and over and over in that practice. And I'm going to script exactly what defense I want against that. And so at any time in the practice, all of our coaches can look at a practice plan and we say, guys, we're on play 10. They look down, they see, okay, play 10 is going to be an outside run, outside zone, and we're going to be in a 43 cover 2. Okay. And so by knowing what the play is, by knowing what the opponent's going to be doing, your coaches now know exactly where to watch. And know exactly how their players are supposed to respond and react prior to the play. That's really important because that's going to develop that's going to give them the quick little bursts of coaching in between plays. They're going to be more prepared for that. Okay, so scripting things out are really important for 2 reasons. One, it's because you're now going to outline the plays. You're going to set them up the way you want them. Okay. And so you have to do the homework as the coach. You set those up and you have your team simulate those plays. You have the stuff scripted so that your assistant coaches can know what play it's on. For us in football, we'll have a coach that works with the scout team. That's the team that's simulating our opponent. And he'll have plays in a book out there that the other team is going to run against us. And the coach may say, hey, coach such and such, can I get play number 11? And then he'll through the book. The scout team looks up, they learn that play, they come out, they run that play against us. It's a very efficient way to do things, and it's a way to ensure that you're getting enough looks at what that team does best. What you don't want to have happen is you get done with a game and you know, maybe you didn't do really well at one part of the game, and you look back and you say, man, they've been good at that all year, and we barely practiced against that this whole week in practice. How can I expect my guys to be good at that or be successful at that if we didn't spend any practice time on it? So scripting the plays is huge. Okay. And not just randomly calling plays, because random doesn't work. And so this is a typical 1-day practice plan just for our defense. And you can see the practice plans change as we go from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that's just one example. So now as we tie all these things together, you've got your long laundry list of skills that are going to go with your overlying technique or scheme. Okay. Then you're going to prioritize those skills, okay, with an implementation chart or schedule. Then you're going to schedule when you're going to be teaching each one of those skills and each one of those drills. Okay. I mean, you can see it's a lot. If you want to do it right, it's a lot, but there's a very logistical step-by-step approach to make sure that you don't miss anything as the coach. Okay. Again, you don't want to let your players down and be unprepared for something or something your team is the other team you're playing is going to do. And so the more organized you are, the more peace of mind you're going to have to know that you went through the rigors of learning everything this team you're going to play is going to do. You went through the rigors of identifying the areas that you think you need to work on that week and then scheduling them appropriately. I need 15 minutes for this. I'm going to need 20 minutes for this. This is a big one. I only need 5 minutes for this one. That's a little one. We're going to put it all together at the end. This will help you tremendously. And so after we get done with this week's assignment of identifying the skills and drills, we're going to start getting into practice plans, and then we're going to work towards a game plan. So all these things will be tied together, and hopefully as we go, you'll see it's just been a progression the whole semester of what I think, so I looked at this class and I said, what are all the skills and drills that our students need to learn in this class? And then I prioritized them in order. And so this is a direct reflection of the teaching style that I've described to you today, that we're going to start with the basics. And so we started out with self-examination of what kind of coaches we think we are, or what kind of coaches we like, or what kind of coaches we think we would like to be. And then we're defined, so then we know where we are. Then we're defining where we want to be as a team. Okay. And we're developing goals and a culture. And now we're getting into the strategies, and now we're getting into the skills and drills that make up those strategies. And we've talked about interpersonal communication. And so that's what we've done with this class, the same way I would do with a football team. And each date I've got something planned, and I know how much time we're going to spend on that. And I've got everything ready to go. And as we go, it should all just come together. And so at the end of the class, once again, my goal is that you guys would have a useful journey that you could reflect on, that would help you be more successful. So for this week, it's just basically identify. You've already identified the scheme you guys like. Okay, now we want to talk about the actual teaching of those techniques, the drills and skills. And one pointer I would give to all of you guys, two pointers, but they're kind of the same. A really easy way to teach something, in my opinion, is to always have a systematic approach that you use for everything that you teach. For example, we're going to start with the feet. Then we're going to talk about your legs. Then we're going to talk about your hips. Then we're going to talk about your shoulder placement and your hand placement and your eyes. If you do that with every single thing you teach, I think you're going to be more complete. And because there are coaching points to all those things with every skill, how wide your feet are, where your toes are pointing. Should you have a slight bend in your knees? Should your legs be straight? What should your hips be? All those things I identified, you would say in whether you're throwing a ball, catching a ball, shooting a free throw, rebounding, anything, tackling somebody, start from the feet and work up. Okay, you say these are the skills. Okay, now let's figure out the drills where we can reinforce that. So I also have some links for you this week that are not related so much to the lecture of practice planning and skills and drills, but they are just videos that I enjoy, that have inspired me as a coach and as a human being, and I think you guys will enjoy them. They're not long, and they just take a few minutes, but hope you guys enjoy this assignment. One last benefit from approaching a teaching style like this that I've received over the years is that when I've done all that homework on our opponent, when I've scripted every play and run it numerous times in practice, and I've sat there and outlined every skill and every drill that we're going to do that week that's going to be specific to that opponent, and I've watched our guys practice, I know where the weaknesses are, I know where our strengths are going to be. When it comes to game day now, I am ready as the coach. Okay. And so it's a win-win. Some coaches don't do much work during the week, and they don't give a great performance on game day. And it's a direct reflection. And so doing the work to have your players organized is also doing the work for you as the coach. Okay. Knowing when to call a certain play, knowing when to call a certain strategy, and knowing what they're going to do and what their most likely response is going to do. So by doing it this way, you will find that you will be more prepared as a coach for any opponent that you guys play. So again, hope you enjoy the assignment and hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I'm sorry I got this out a couple days late this week. I was way behind schedule. We had a long trip, no excuses, but we'll call it a reason. A long trip coming back from Shasta with our football team, and lots going on as we start wrapping the season up. So my apologies. you'll be given as much time as you need to get this done, but hopefully sometime in the next week would be great. So enjoy your weekend. Big game for us this weekend. Go Bear Cubs. So have a great day, everybody. And we'll see you next week for week 9.